There can be only one podcast, and may it be the Princes of the Universe. Hi, folks, I'm Matt.
And I'm Wes.
Holding that mic like Mr. Kennedy.
Norman.
Huh?
Okay. Or that. Yeah. Kennedy.
Kennedy.
Yeah, talk about a guy that kind of blew it.
I'm telling you.
Dang.
I'm telling you. He really was on top. We say this, but he was really over with that crowd.
Yeah. And
Like, the more and more, I remember watching it back in the day, and Bruce and I were just loving him. And Bruce like, he needs to stop. I said, why? He went, because he's getting to be my favorite right now. He said, because I've been loving him more. The more Bruce saw of him, the more I'll be honest, he was growing on me too.
Yeah.
So good. Knew how to work the crowd, had good moves.
Yeah, well, I mean, he was so
look.
good behind the mic. You wonder what prevented him from not being a mouthpiece or doing something with one of those companies.
Yeah,
because he
fizzled out. He
couldn't
capture that magic again in TNA.
Had to be some behind the scenes shenanigans.
Well, that's what they say. He crossed Vince on something, or did something to piss someone off.
Yeah, I think he was kind of a stooge. He kind of stooged off some of the boys.
Yeah, well, oh well.
Too bad we don't have Heath here, because Heath knows about those stooges.
He would have spun a yarn about some stooges, right?
He would have, yes.
Yeah, I think he would have.
Heath knows the stooges.
He does.
Mm-hmm.
You know, speaking of sleeping.
Yes.
And, no one visits the Sandman like Mr. Heath.
What a transition.
Okay, yes. Enter Sandman, legacy of a hardcore icon. A lot of these ones we say, I didn't know much about him, I know Sandman.
Yep.
I know Sandman back in the day when ECW was VHS tapes.
Correct.
I believe I got some from you.
Probably so.
Back in the day, because you'd say, did you see the new ECW, Cuckoo? And I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about. And you say, well, here, I'll give you the VHS. And,
watching ECW on grainy VHS was kind of like finding someone's adult film library in a cardboard box tucked away in a closet, because you knew what you were watching, but you had never seen it presented quite like that.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, gory.
Gritty.
Gritty.
Like
just dirty, underground. I need to take a shower after watching this.
But you were so like, God, I want to watch some more of this.
I did. Like, I don't know what I just saw. I don't know if it's wrestling or two people trying to kill each other, but I'm interested in seeing it one more time.
Just such a collection of odd wrestling, but presented in such a captivating way.
But I felt like all of them were dirty and gritty and needed a shower. I was like, who are these?
Like, these guys are not pretending to they
they're not the fan. They're
may,
not coming out in a flare sequins.
No. They don't have custom-made boots on or anything like that.
No, they don't have a theme, so to say. I think they found these guys on the street and said, y'all want to beat the hell out of each other? And they said, yeah!
So I think, and especially for Sandman, it's hard. You always hear the Mount Rushmore of wrestling. It's hard to say he would not be on the Mount Rushmore of ECW. I'm not saying he for sure is, but it's hard to say he would not be.
Yeah, for me, and here's the thing. At first, I didn't get him. At first, I didn't get who was the guy with the kendo stick.
Right.
Swacking people. Is that really a thing? But he was so big. He got the biggest pops for that. He was right. When Sandman came out, everyone went nuts.
Yep.
And he was the one that started. Was he the one that came in from the crowd? Is that really true?
Well, I mean, if he's not, he was definitely one of the first. But regardless, his whole entrance, and ECW did that with a couple of guys. New Jack was a lot like that, where their music really carried that character. And it's unfortunate they can't talk. I guess they couldn't even really mention his music on Dark Side, because you never heard them reference Metallica once. They just talked about his entrance. But it's iconic. I mean, I went to see a handful of ECW shows. The best wrestling shows I ever saw were ECW shows. And it was fun, and his entrance was very memorable, and his style was extremely violent and unique.
Yeah, he was. Well, backing up just a little bit. I didn't know about pre-Sandman. I didn't know about Surfer Man and all this other stuff. And
Right.
he didn't feel like it was him, but he's a wrestler. He does his job. He did the business without complaining. He didn't say this is a stupid surfboard.
He just looked like Sting that didn't go to the gym to me.
Yeah.
Like if you put Steve Borden with no good supplements and just bleached his hair, he looked like that.
Yeah, he looked like your average man. That's what got him the big pop, because he felt like everyone could do it.
Yeah.
Because Sandman was up there doing it. He was the average. Where was this taking place?
Philadelphia.
Yeah, he was the Philly guy.
Yeah.
He was the
It
guy who goes,
blue collar. Once he
definitely
changed
blue
that
collar,
gimmick.
the beer drinking before Stone Cold was really Stone Cold.
And I guess that they didn't want to tick Austin off or something, because you watch that, and when I was watching it with my lady friend, she even said, "Well, God, Austin took that from him."
Yeah. We're talking about the drinking the beer,
Yep.
crushing the can. He crushed the can on his head or crush it up. He'd pour beer down someone else. He said,
Yeah, he definitely went it more extreme with him. Yeah.
Now he did more, but I like, if they were wearing my shirt, they were getting some beer. I was like, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That's how you sell shirts.
Yeah, for sure.
That's how you get the crowd messed up. He was bleeding before he got in the ring. It's like, who is this guy? But the day that, what was it, Paul Heyman who told him, he's like, well, I forgot my boots. He went, so?
Right.
And that's when he realized, oh, wait, I don't need boots. And that's where Sandman was born. He said, I don't even need a wrestling.
He wrestled in Jordans.
He wrestled in Jordans, T-shirt, baggy, and like
In Zubaz,
the clothes that everyone else had at their house, and thought,
He looked like somebody's drunk uncle. It was like, let me show you boys something.
but I remember when I was one of the early VHSs, and I loved Rod Van Dam. He was the one that really just shone. I say, who is this guy?
Yeah, I agree with that.
This guy is amazing. I remember thinking, he is playing with children. This is a major league player playing Little League.
But I think that's what made him, I think that he fit that so well.
Oh, he did.
Because he still worked with all of those guys. He may have outshined them, but he didn't make them look like amateurs.
And I'm not saying he was the better wrestler, but he was the more showman.
Oh, I think he was I personally think RVD was the biggest star to ever come out of ECW.
Oh, by far, I think so too. But he just really stood out in those videos. When it was Rod Van Dam up there, I was like, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I was like, who is? I even thought maybe this is John. I didn't know. It's John Van Dam's little brother.
Right.
Is that who this is? Is that why he's so amazing? I said, this guy's just incredible. And but when I saw Sandman, I didn't get it, because more people cheered for. I mean, just the crowd would erupt.
Yep.
And at the time, Stone Cold was doing his thing.
Sure.
And I thought that it was a Stone Cold ripoff. And I said, he's just Stone Cold 1.0 or
Sure.
something.
Yeah.
Now seeing it, and I knew years later that it was the exact opposite.
Yeah.
But hearing them talk and hearing him talk, he knew how to connect with the crowd instantly. You played to your home crowd. He did. And that's why he was just so over with them, because every person related to him, and he wasn't afraid to get hurt, get beat, get in the ring and wrestle with the boys.
Yeah, I think if anything, that's what you start. You look at that way, and then he gets into like, you realize there's no way, and it's not like they worked 7 days a week on this.
Right.
ECW ran normally Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They did a normal loop. But you cannot do what they're doing 3 days in a row.
No, not what they're doing.
And Sandman did so much violent stuff. And, the story with Raven and
Oh, that was a great story. I remember that too.
well, I'm not talking about the crucifixion. I'm talking more about the drug abuse and overdose.
Yeah.
It's like, man, that was their weekend.
Yep. Yep.
Pretty scary stuff.
Raven saying that was some of the best storyline. Him and Sandman, one of the best rivalries.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah.
Still to this day, big one. I like they were filming in a park in the middle of the night in New York, not so sketch neighborhood, but Raven's like, oh man, we gotta film here. So they wake up the kid and make him. I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize it was that intense. But those were some of the VHSs we were watching back in the day.
Yeah.
Because you was like, what'd you think? And I remember because when I'm watching this episode, I kept thinking, I said, I remember a lot of this. This one I remember because you're like, what'd you think of that Raven Sandman match or whatever? That and that all this because everyone was talking
about the Pulp
about
Fiction music with the ECW promos.
Yeah, they knew to whatever the zeitgeist of the time was, wherever it was hot and in and clicked. Paul Heyman knew what would work. He knew how to sell his brand, and that's what he would do. So anyway. So, the other thing, he goes to WCW.
Yes.
And this is where, and I love the term, I don't know why, but the gas. They call it the gas.
Yes.
Now, they've talked about steroids a billion times.
Sure.
I don't know if I've heard it. I know it's called gas, but boy, was gas the word. And I loved it.
Yeah.
Because, he looked like the Incredible Hulk.
He put on a lot of size.
But he knew because he's in
Land of Giants.
Boys.
Yeah,
that's what he said. And I've got to do what I got to do.
Yeah.
And boy, when they showed him, I do not remember his WCW run. I do, and if that was maybe in the what was that pre-day?
It was late '90s. It was like
yeah,
maybe
but
he was barely there, maybe a year.
WWE was pulling away at that.
Oh
point,
yeah,
right?
yeah. That's
so I probably wasn't watching as much WCW and not paying attention. But holy crow. Because I remember watching him on the VHS of ECW. When I saw that, I was like, I don't think if I saw him, I just don't remember him in WCW. But
yeah.
Whoa. And then it's good gas, the all-natural gas that really puts you in that steroid rage. And, of course, his self-destructive nature made him lose his family.
Whew, yeah, man. When he talks about that was pretty rough.
Mm-hmm.
That is running way too hard.
Oh yeah, push himself, destroying his body, destroying his relationships, his family.
Yeah,
just to up his game.
Trying to get to the
top.
To be a lower level talent in a bigger company, was pretty rough for him.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Tore him apart.
So
yeah, not that the life of ECW was all glamorous.
No, yeah.
But still, it just took it up a different notch.
And I think that his story, that latter half of that he came across very, man, that was tough.
It was.
You felt for everybody involved in that, and especially like his kids going on this wild goose chase to get money to get him out of jail, and you just went, ugh.
Just ran into a ditch and just didn't get out.
Yep.
Just it's sad, and of course this is dark side of the ring, not bright side of the rainbow or something.
No, it was very much the dark side of chasing success.
It was. That's an interesting comment that you said about them not wanting to offend Steve Austin, saying he was the original.
Yeah, when you watch it, you can't help but if you start putting timelines together, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying Steve Austin.
No, I'm not saying he's a charlatan.
Yeah, like he just.
How dare he rip him off?
But if he saw that and he's like, well,
no, he knew.
Let me try that.
He knew the Texan whoop ass Southern boy image really clicks with the at least 50% or more of the fan club, and that was all. That was the clip. That was the push you needed to just
right. Another way to relate to your customer clientele is that, and Austin just made it bigger, like Vince normally used to do. If he could find something someone did, he could do it better.
Yeah. You serve your clientele. Don't just sit there in the comic book store while people come in and say nothing to them.
Correct.
Exactly. All right. So, anything else to add for Sandman?
I think it's one that I think it's solid and it's
a solid
sad.
Episode. It is I agree. It's a solid episode. I was engaged the entire time for this one.
Yeah, I wouldn't say you walk away from it like you did watching Sherry and go, wow, he was, pioneered the business necessarily, but he was very, very much a major part of what made ECW so unique and memorable.
I think you walk away understanding why Sandman was an icon. I think you walk away with a good understanding of why he had his place in history.
Yep.
Not
sure.
like the sensational series. It wasn't like, oh, he's elevated. No, it's spotlight on Sandman.
Yep.
Here's some good. I was gonna say fun facts. Not really fun, but here's some facts about the man. If you didn't know, here's some more about him. I thought that was great.
Yeah.
Finally, we get to their finale. They don't focus on a wrestler. It's not focusing on a wrestler's life, which is this the first time they've done it?
Well, they did the bash at the beach thing.
You're right. Never mind. You're right. They did. Okay. So this one is Black Saturday, and I love the subtitle, The Rise of Vince. Now, before this episode aired, we actually did an episode on Black Saturday.
Yep.
You, Sandman, and I
Yes.
all did one. And I felt when Heath and I were looking at the future episodes, we went, no way. How funny is that that they did an episode on it? So my question to you is there anything new you learned in this episode that you did not know?
Well, I think that they fleshed some of it out.
Okay. I'm sure you enjoyed
and
it.
I totally enjoyed it. I think that what it did was show how everyone who was smart that was in the business side of like the office saw Vince coming.
Oh, yeah.
And Vince made it known what he, people were like, when you'll hear old timers talk about, well, Vince just kind of came in, and it's like they all saw Vince coming. Vince was not subtle about anything he was trying to do. He just was smart enough to work these guys against each other, where they would start flipping on each other, which in turn they did.
Of the Briscoes, yeah.
Yeah, and getting Barnett up there, and he got Briscoes up there, and so he was very smart and calculated in what he did.
I would have retitled it Black Saturday, the First Domino, because that was when the dominoes truly started to fall.
Yeah, that was a major shift.
That was the biggest. That was the first domino that fell. That cascaded just in 2 years' time. Now Vince is the game.
Yep.
And it's true. That's where it started. But and then from there it was just rolling, and the snowball got bigger.
Correct.
As it went down the mountain. But that was the first push it got. It was so cool to see the clips. So cool to see Vince there and everyone going, I love, they're talking about the people's reaction going, wait, where's my wrestling? Because New York wrestling wasn't Southern style wrestling.
No, it was not. The personalities were different. The presentation was different. It was like changing schools.
Yeah, there you go. There's a good analogy. Like you used to having your dinners, your cafeteria.
Whoever were your friends, they are not this way at this school.
They're gone. This is you're on a different side of town.
Correct.
Now.
Yep.
And we don't do that old Southern style.
Yeah.
This is New York, baby.
Yep.
And this is how we wrestle.
Yep.
Now, eventually, they would go back to that old style with the wrestlers still under Vince, just to give the people what they wanted. But I was around during this time. This was not, my dad wasn't into wrestling back then.
Sure.
So the impact in our household was zero. But I would have loved to have seen someone's face.
Well, and it was so in the infancy of cable.
That's true, too.
So, it was pioneering the superstation. It really was. So this was such a Wild West type episode about business. But, it's talk about what stood out. I thought it stood out well how Briscoe said no matter who he was working with, someone was screwing him on his money, which is what all wrestlers say. Even though he was in the office, even though he had a piece of the towns, he was still getting screwed around. And I think that the Barnett side of it, I mean, he's got quite a story on his own because he was in the business and worked in Australia and did so much different stuff. And once again, they talked about, being openly gay and and then anything featuring Ole Anderson at Ole Anderson's best. And unfortunately, Ole can't tell those stories, but people can tell pretty good Ole stories. He was just such a gruff guy.
I got that.
Yep.
Where a handshake was a deal, and you don't back out on a deal.
Yeah.
His son's still a little bitter.
Yep. Yeah, his son looks a lot like Ole.
Yes, he does. Yes,
Yeah.
he does.
So he's got that Ole look.
But Ole is one of those old school wrestlers like Harley Race that is just as dangerous as he comes into the ring. He is who he
and he
pretends to be.
he was a miserable guy. And what is so interesting is he never worked that. He was just who he was.
Yeah, he was just himself in the ring. What you saw was what you got.
Yep. And outside the ring, his personality was terrible. And when Vince tried to introduce him to Linda, and he just really did not want to meet her and voiced his
That's a good story.
creative way of letting Vince know that. I mean, that is the difference from what Vince was wanting to build versus what the pro wrestling business was at that time.
I should say this. Vince, the one thing it made me think of when watching the episode is Vince really knows. You hear all these things that Vince treats people terribly. He's a bully. He's violent. But he knew exactly what levers he could pull to get the people who he screwed over to say, all right, come on. Hey, it's just business. Come on. I mean, and knew that was the right path to take. Because making so many enemies this way, they could have, in a way, there would have been enough people pissed off at him in the long run to say, hey, let's pull up a front. I don't know if it would have happened, but I'm just saying, Vince, after that was over, said, hey, we'll give you a job. Even Ole offered a job. Let's mend the fence. Let's move on. Did that with everyone. I'd rather you work for me than start up something in the competition.
Yeah.
To squash that, because he knew he still had a whole nation to take over. So, I conquered this general instead of throwing him in a dungeon and forgetting about him.
There's an old saying where the
me.
devil you know is better than the devil you don't, and I think Vince was so methodical. Mm-hmm. And I think the episode also ends very uniquely on focusing on where the wrestling business is in 2024 and all of the changes that have happened in the past 12 months.
Right, and we can talk about the ending real quick because I mean they talk about Vince's struggles that he left and come back. At this time of the filming, they had not known what they knew now, but in the post credits,
they cover everything.
They cover that too.
Yeah,
now. I was a little, maybe because they talked about Vince so much during it, they felt like they had to, so never mind. But I kind of feel like next season, we're going to hear another Vince McMahon story, right? They got to do this one.
Well, I definitely think that...
I mean, they talked so much about Vince in the past, I understand that, but this is a new chapter. The whole, I'm gone, now I'm back, and now I'm gone again.
I don't know how much they can cover. I think their money... if they want to go down that order, is kind of like borrowing from what we talked about, was these big landmark things where Vince went in and did things. Like there's the sabotage of Starrcade when they all just screwed around with the cable companies and the pay-per-views and how conniving Vince was. But, I mean, it's business.
It's business. That's exactly right.
And to victory goes the spoils, right? How they say. So I think that that's an interesting take for next season. But I did like the way that they showed, like 40 years ago, Vince's ultimate plan. The success. We know where that rainbow ends now, where it's like he is forced out of his own company by going public, and all of the it's not personal, it's business. How you flipped it now to where everything, his business is personal and everything is intertwined.
Everything's intertwined, and I think Jim Cornette said it best that he built this to be moneymaker streamline, thinking of the bottom line, and now the monster he's created has eaten him. 'Cause
Right.
it is now strictly business, bottom line, no thrills, no shrills. We got to look at the bottom line. What's best for the business? What's best for the business is you to leave.
Correct.
And now he's been preaching this for so many years, especially the past couple of years. Fine tuning it. This is a money maker. This is a way, making it, take it to another level. That now his own argument is being used against him, and the door got pushed out.
Yep.
And Jim Cornette put in his own colorful language, I'm sure.
Sure.
But that's what he said, and I thought, wow, that's exactly right. Vince was a victim of the company. He elevated it to the level it is now.
Well, so many people that start a business, you would that to an extent is you want to run that business to a point where you go, and I think Vince did that. He brought the WWF back up so much in that '90s growth at the late '90s when it went public. But the company has been public now for 25 years almost, basically, in or around that. So it's been public longer than he owned it on his own. So it is a different animal. And I don't know how much Vince changed with that versus Vince kept being Vince and the world around him changed so much.
Yeah. Now, the thing is, and I hate to shift from this, overall, the episode was good.
Yeah, I think anyway, you want a history lesson on how all this happened. Yeah. That's why Heath wanted to cover that, when we did it,
Yeah.
because it is such a landmark part where fans began to divide and understand, they saw some of this stuff in magazines and now they were seeing it and they would go, this isn't what I wanted to see. Even though they may sell out Madison Square Garden doing this, but in
They couldn't sell out
Alpharetta, Georgia,
Yeah.
they wanted no part of this.
Yeah.
So I think that's interesting because that shows not everything is going to be liked by everybody until that big company gobbles everything up, whether it's Walmart or any other major big business that destroys the outliner. And that's what Vince did.
Yeah. Another subtitle, Pissing in Your Cereal. The Black Saturday story.
Yeah, and if anybody was going to piss in it, it would be maybe Ole.
But yeah, I thought this was a good season finale.
Yeah, for sure.
Really strong. Overall, I enjoyed season 5 as a whole.
Yeah.
You?
Yeah, I thought that there were a couple of episodes that were kind of meh, but I thought they ended on a good note, and I thought some of these episodes were as good as anything they'd done previously.
Yeah. I'm looking over these, and I don't know which one I enjoyed most. I mean, the Life and Legend of Harley Race is good. Terry Gordy's was great. Sensational Sherry's was great. There was just some good.
I think out of all of them, I think the one that I took away the most from was Sherry's.
That was a good one. I'll pick Terry Gordy. I don't know. I think Terry Gordy was just really good. I love them. I love them all. But, yeah, those were just. And the Harley Race one was really good too. But maybe Terry Gordy's. I don't know. But you're right. Sensational Series was excellent.
Yeah, and I think the Gordy one, the thing that if you watch it that sticks out is, it's kind of like Tenta. He was so young.
That's what hit me. I didn't realize he started the business so young.
But their careers were cut short for drastically different reasons. Where not because, physically you can't do anything or you've been used up, you just kind of destroy yourself.
His was probably the biggest gut punch in a way. To swallow. I mean, they're all hard endings to swallow for everyone, but his is like, oh man, that is it's sad. I mean, just super depressing that this one overdose that stayed too long ruined the man forever.
And I guess if you look at that episode to this one, you see everyone turning on each other in this episode, but the Terry Gordy, you see all these guys trying to keep that train on the tracks. and you just couldn't do it.
I know. But anyway, overall, good season. Good talk. There it is. Dark Side of the Ring. Let us know what you thought about these last 2 episodes. And we'll see you next time on Princes of the Universe.